Hello everyone and welcome back to Argentine Asado. Today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my favorite herbs of all time that I pretty much use every single time I'm grilling on the asado. Now come with me for a short journey where I'm going to pick some of my favorite herbs and I'm going to show you exactly how you should use them on your slow roast when you're slow roasting any meat, grilling, or doing a beautiful asado. Now the good thing about this herb is that you can use it on the grill, you can use it in the pan, you can use it in the oven, you can use this herb pretty much anywhere. And also, it's very cheap. So stay with me for this video and I'm gonna show you exactly this game-changing herb that's so basic, that has so many characteristics and properties and flavors that you should be using if you are grilling, and the different things you can do with this herb that makes it so unique. So let's go for a journey. It's rosemary. The herb is rosemary. Guys, this herb is fantastic. If you're not currently using this in your grilling, in your slow roasting, on the pan, in the pan, you are missing out. So, rosemary. Let's talk a little bit about rosemary. It comes from the sage family. I understand this was originally from Portugal, Spain, maybe France. Here in Argentina, it is literally available on the side of the road, as you just saw in the video. It is super common and it's something that is very cheap if you have to buy it, like dried herbs like this. If you get them fresh or dried, super cheap. But it is so scented, has so much flavor, so much body, so many characteristics. You want to be using this if you are grilling or if you're cooking in the kitchen. It's just so much body to it, and it's not too strong. It doesn't bring out like unnecessary flavors that are going to counter react with your meat or whatever you're cooking. So let's talk about the different ways you can use rosemary. So first up, there are different types of rosemary. Now the rosemary plant, as you can see here in the picture, kind of is like it's like a shrub, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys are have way more expertise in this area than I do, but it's kind of a shrub, and at the bottom you have like these branches, and then you have these beautiful pine needles that come off. And as I know, it is evergreen, so it is all year round, and it is pretty consistent with this beautiful green color. And then in the spring and during the summer and in the fall, you sometimes get these purple flowers that are really nice. I'm going to show you one of them here. That I know they don't last very long because we have them here on the road, like the side of the road, we have them like growing everywhere. And you notice that they come into flower and they disappear. So how do you use your rosemary? Well, first of all, let's classify something. You have dried rosemary, as you can see here, and you have fresh rosemary. Then you can also get rosemary oil, you can even get rosemary water, you can get rosemary scented salt, you can get so many different types of rosemary, but I like to use fresh rosemary because I believe it is the balanced version of rosemary. When you dry rosemary, what generally happens is there is a curing process where the oxygen will actually absorb some of the characteristics and tastes. But on the other hand, dried rosemary is way better to cook with. For example, if you're going to put it in a bread, or if you're going to put it in the oven, if you are going to put it in a stew, dried rosemary does a lot better than fresh rosemary. So when can you use fresh rosemary and how should you use it? So here is my fresh rosemary plant, and as you can see, it's got this beautiful purple flower, which is really heavily scented as well. But don't ever cook this, guys. Don't ever put this in your when you're cooking. This grows everywhere here in Argentina, and the scent is just so strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now take off all of these small little branches that come off the main stem, and then I'm going to dry these just by putting them in a vase, in the fridge, not in the fridge, in my cabinet. I'm going to put them in the cabinet and I'm going to let them dry out, and then I'm going to use these more for when I'm slow roasting or slow cooking in the oven, because it's better to use dried rosemary for when you're doing more of a long cooking process. On the grill, I like to kind of use the fresh, but when I'm going to do something in the oven, maybe for like 4 or 5 hours, like a hot pot or something like that, when I'm going to roast something, that is when I'm going to use the dried rosemary. So you can see the plant is really nice, and yeah, this grows everywhere. So I'm going to show you right now a 7-pound piece of Vacio. You know, we've cooked this before in the past. I'm going to put the video up here. We've cooked this beautiful cut of meat, and actually in the US, you kind of get this in 3 different cuts: the flap, you get the brisket, you get the flank steak, and you kind of get it all connected. In Argentina, they cut it a little bit differently. We call it Vacio. I'll put a picture of it up here. Did you see that? It just lit up on me. Okay guys, back to the video. After getting royally scorched by the asado, by the parrilla, the fire, I pretty much had to kind of pick up some of the coals that were on the floor. Anyway, some of the embers, sorry. So how can you use rosemary in your different grilling and in your different cooking? Well, first of all, I like to use fresh rosemary when it is meat on the grill, because it gives it time for the rosemary kind of to cure itself with the smoke, with the heat. And you don't actually have to put it in the meat, you can just put it on top of the meat. And I'm gonna show you exactly how I do that right now in a video. So I've got a flank brisket slash flat and Vacio. And I'm gonna put the rosemary literally on top of the meat during the whole cooking process. When I turn it over halfway through, I'm gonna put it on the other side. I'm just gonna leave it there fresh. You will notice that when you eat this meat, there is this beautiful balanced scent of rosemary. This is what makes rosemary so exquisite. It's so supportive of the taste that you want to bring out in something like a Vacio. So as you can see, I've put the rosemary literally on top of the Vacio, and what makes it so special is that you don't actually have to put the rosemary inside the Vacio, but more just let it sit on the outside and keep it super scented all the way through the cooking process. So the next way that you can use rosemary is if it's dried. Now you can dry your own rosemary, and I'm going to show you a little step-by-step process up here. Drying rosemary is very, very straightforward. You don't need any complex machines or anything. It's pretty straightforward. But if you dry your own rosemary and then put it in a pot, you can then use this. This is perfect. If you're going to put it in stews, you're going to put it in a hot pot, you're going to put it in the oven, you're going to slow roast something, you're going to do some smoking, then this is perfect. You can use dried rosemary for longer cooking processes. Maybe it's been in the oven for like 3, 4, 5 hours. Dried rosemary is the way to go because it's going to perfectly disintegrate, and you're going to actually physically lose the rosemary, but it's going to be inclusive, and it's going to have that scent all the way through the cooking process. Now, if you put fresh rosemary, a stick of fresh rosemary in something like a hot pot, that's going to be fine, but what you're going to notice that when you're done, you're going to put out the whole stick. So you want to make sure that you pull away all of the pines, all of the little needles from the little branch, and then you can use that if you want to. But I would go with dried rosemary. Now the last option is when you put it in the pan. Now I've got a video here of searing some ribeye steak in the pan. You'll notice that I put the rosemary next to the garlic and with the butter right next to the ribeye steak or the sirloin or whatever you're going to be grilling in the pan. Now when you're reverse searing or you're grilling in the pan, you want to make sure that you don't let the heat overcook the fresh rosemary. It's going to actually burn it and turn it to black, and it's going to get very acidic. So you want to make sure you only put it in there for like maybe a minute to 3 minutes max, and you can use it to paste the meat with the butter and all of the spices, or if you've got salt and pepper and maybe some garlic powder in the pan, then that's what you can paste it up and down the steak with your fresh rosemary. So guys, I hope you found this interesting. I'm about to grill this beautiful piece of Vacio with the fresh rosemary. I'm going to show you right now. And as always, remember to use rosemary in healthy proportions. Don't go overboard, but don't put too little. Kind of a good rule of thumb is to use one twig, like one stick of rosemary for like every pound of meat, or every pound and a half maybe. So if you've got like a 5 pound, you could use 3 or 4 sticks, and then you can kind of distribute it evenly around the meat. Don't go overboard, but don't worry about using a little bit more than average as well, because it's not something that is going to disrupt the taste of your meat. Hope you found this video interesting, and enjoy this now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Before putting the Vacio on the hot grill, I've let it rest. It's been resting for about 3 to 4 hours. A good rule of thumb is for every pound or every half kilo of meat, let it rest for around an hour. So this is about 4 kilos, and I've let it rest for around 3 to 4 hours. Now, as you can see, my fire is doing very well. As I always say, a good asado always starts with a great fire. I've got my wood there, my piquichin and quebracho, some nice heavy scented woods as well. And then as I've created this bed of embers, as you can see, I've created a circle, and that is so that the middle of the Vacio, which is the thinner part, doesn't overcook. And it also helps drive the heat in and keep the juices within the piece of meat. I've cleaned the grill and we are now ready to put on the Vacio with obviously the rosemary, and then we're gonna leave it on that side for 2 hours, then we're going to turn it over for another hour, and then we're gonna take it off, let it rest for 15 minutes and slice it up. Okay, so the Vacio is now on the grill and I've put on the membrane side down, and I've just kept that rosemary on top. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use that then to paste on some brine throughout the grilling process. And as I said, you don't need to put it in the meat, just put it on the top and let it do its magic.